You're now listening to the Built to Last podcast, a show for human performance professionals from a biblical worldview. This is performance coaching with eternal purpose.
Welcome back to another episode of the Built to Last podcast. I'm your host, Justin Bentavania, and we're joined again for the fifth time in our series with Coach Jerry Palmieri, who was the strength and conditioning coach for the New York Giants. He's been in the NFL, college athletics, guys. He's got a long career from 1982 all the way to 2017 in athletics as a strength and conditioning coach. And so I think there's a lot to take from Coach. And if you have not heard the first four episodes, I highly recommend you guys listen to these in order. They flow one right into the next, and they have been impacting me as I've been listening to Coach, and I think they'll do the same for you. And so, Coach, just want to turn it over to you for our fifth lesson here.
During one of my conditioning workouts at Kansas State, I heard one of our linebackers, Brooks Barter, encouraging his teammates. "Keep going. Nobody quit," he yelled out. "The first time you quit will be the hardest." I started thinking about that statement. The first time you quit will be the hardest, and thought to myself, boy, that's true. Each time you are challenged thereafter, it'll become easier and easier to give up. I believe this statement applies to all areas of life. The first time you do anything will be the hardest. The first time you stand in front of a group to give a presentation will be the hardest. The first time you prepare yourself for a job interview will be the hardest. The first time you meet with a prospective client will be the hardest. The first time you lie will be the hardest. The first time you cheat on your spouse will be the hardest. Each time thereafter, it will become easier and easier to meet the challenge or surrender the vile behavior. Whatever your call is in life, you must stay focused on your destination, where you want to get to, and then you have to fight and persevere until you get there. The athlete's vision to be a champion will help her persevere through the tough workouts. The man's vision to be a good husband and father will give him the strength to avoid adulterous temptations. The businessman's vision to lead a successful company will motivate him through the long, tough weeks of meetings. The salesperson's determination to satisfy her clients drives her to meet their professional needs. The book of Proverbs, chapter 29, verse 18 says, "Where there is no revelation, the people cast off restraint." When people have no vision, there is no discipline to fight on. On July 4th, 1952, a young woman named Florence Chadwick attempted to swim the 26-mile channel from Catalina Island to the California coast. The water was numbing cold and the fog so thick that she could hardly see the boats in her party. After swimming more than 15 hours, she asked to come out of the water. Her trainer tried to encourage her to swim on since they had to be close to land. But when she looked, all she could see was fog. She quit 1 mile short of her goal. 2 months later, Florence Chadwick walked up the same Catalina beach into the same channel and swam that grueling distance. When that same fog set in, she had the image of the coastline in her mind that kept her going. Florence accomplished the feat, not only becoming the first woman to swim the channel, but she also beat the men's record by more than 2 hours. She was able to reach her goal because she kept her focus on where she was going. Helen Keller, an accomplished writer and lecturer who was blind, deaf, and mute, once wrote, "The only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision." Keep your eyes on your goals. There will be adversity. There will be challenges. How are you going to respond? The same boiling water that softens potatoes hardens eggs. It's all about what you are made of inside. What are you made of? Adversity makes some men quit, yet others rise to fame. When adversity sets in and the road becomes difficult, How are you going to respond? Keep fighting. Don't give up. The first time you quit will be the hardest.
I love this one, Coach. This is probably my favorite one, and it reminds me of Romans chapter 1. You know, God talks about how He gave the people over to their desires, and it created in them a debased mind from just being in their desires for sin and being, God giving them over to that. And if someone is consistently surrendering, like you said, to vile behavior, getting back on track can be hard. It can be hard to kind of break that cycle or that habit. The hardest time is going to be, like you said, the first time, whether that's to do something and for the positive or for the negative. How important would you say are boundaries to keep yourself from either falling for the first time or like reverting back to a bad habit? Like how important are boundaries?
Well, you have to know where you're vulnerable. You have to know where your weakness lies. So if you're someone who struggles with pornography, you have to set up those boundaries on your computer, on your phone. I know a good friend of mine, young man, he's in his early 30s. He went and got himself, I think he called it a Hebrew phone, where all he could do was call, text, and have GPS. He had no access to the internet on it. And he could only use his wife's computer. And he did it in public because he was struggling with pornography. He did not want that part of his life, and he wanted to just eliminate it. So that's what he did. He set up that kind of boundary for him. But I think in whatever it might be, if you struggle with drinking too much alcohol, and then you probably need to stay out of bars. Okay, if it's temptation for the opposite sex, then you probably need to be with your spouse when you go out into these environments. You have to know what your boundaries are. I know for me, and I know I'm talking a lot about sex here because, hey, as men, that's probably a big issue right there.
Mm-hmm.
But when I traveled on the road, the first thing I did when I went to the hotel room is I went in and I eliminated the adult channel because I'm strongest when I got there. There's going to be 10 o'clock at night when I got nothing else going on, meetings are all over, I'm just hanging out in the room by myself. That's where the urge, that's where the temptation is going to come. So, at that point, it was not an option. So yeah, definitely establish boundaries, know what you recognize your weaknesses, and then do what you need to do to protect yourself from falling into those traps.
Yeah, it's really good. And I remember when you mentioned those specific examples to me and my wife as well at the marriage seminar that you were giving with Ellen a couple months back. That was something, again, that hit really hard with us because it's so true. Just investing in your marriage, investing in, like I said, boundaries with wherever you're at. Every couple is going to be different. We're all prone to these things and just maybe in different ways or at different levels. But boundaries, regardless, are always, I agree, I think, a good thing because you never know. You might just be having a bad day one day and you say, oh, it's not going to be me. I'll never do that. But because you have your boundaries in place, it really keeps you in check. So
that's one of the worst things you can say. I will never do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because you think you never do it, then you put your guard down.
Right.
That's not something you need to worry about. Well, yeah, that's when Satan hits you.
That's right. Yep.
We at least expect them.
Well, hey, Coach, I know I mentioned before about how that's something that I heard you speak to me and my wife about with you and your wife back at the marriage seminar. I know you do different presentations and marriage events. Is there, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you to book you for something like that, or just talk to you more about some of those types of things, is there a best way for them to reach you?
Well, my cell phone is 201-835-0177. My email address is my name, Jerry with a J, Palmieri, so JERRYPALMIERI 910 recipient@gmail.com.
Perfect. So if you guys want to learn more about those opportunities to get with Coach and see what he has to offer for presentations, team setting, corporate setting, just reach out to him. Thanks, Coach. We'll see you guys again in the next episode.